everyone, to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial. I'm your host this week, Stephen Shelton. I am joined by my tag team partner, Jason Cox, and a man that we all know and love and very thankful that we are wearing masks this year, Patrick Key, who joins us this week. So, guys, listen, we have Tennessee football back for at least one more week. And I guess we're excited somewhat, but we're not real sure.
You know, it's one of those things. I hate when we don't have games. I hate the off weeks. I hate the multiple off weeks we've had. But man, I couldn't be any less excited about this matchup. It's just a horrible matchup for Tennessee. We're playing so bad. And in all my years of watching Tennessee, Florida, this is the game that probably in my lifetime I've looked forward to the most year in and year out. And man, I have almost no hope this week.
I'm excited about the game. I'm excited about Coastal Carolina and BYU at 5:30 tomorrow. But I agree. This is we always come in thinking we have a puncher's chance against Florida, and this is just the year where we're pretty much resigned to, well, maybe we'll get within 20 if we're lucky. And that's kind of that's not a feeling you like. You want to come in, you want to be fired up for the game, even if you have a small chance of winning. You want to go in and be excited.
You know, I feel like at some point, luck's got to fall on our side in one of these big games. We're going to run into a team that's really, really good, and they're going to turn it over 4 or 5 times, and we're going to hold it together and kick a field goal at the end. I can't see it being this week, but at some point, doesn't that have to happen, that we just get lucky and win a game we shouldn't?
I hope it didn't happen, and I hope our luck didn't run out against South Carolina when they botched the punt return. But I mean, it might have, but I'd like to get a few breaks. I'd like to see some progress from our younger players this weekend. I think that's something we can hope to look forward to, seeing some of the younger players seeing how they're progressing and seeing what the future holds for next year.
And specifically number 15 under center, right? Isn't that the main person we're alluding to?
Well, let's go back then. Let's jump back to the last time Tennessee was on the field. That was Auburn, went down to the Plains, defeated 30-17 down there against a Tiger team that a lot of people thought Tennessee could stay with. Again, it's woe is me in the second half. It's the same story, guys. We're now outscored, I think, 375-17 in the second half this season. So it's an incredible turn of events for Tennessee from the first half to the second half. How do you guys seen that play out?
I think we ran with them for a while. I think we stood toe to toe with Auburn. We had a great running game with Eric Gray
at halftime.
Yeah, we had, Eric Gray ran for over 200 yards or close to 200 yards, and we stood toe to toe with him. But unfortunately, turnovers reared their ugly head.
Yeah, and it started and it ended with number 2. Once again, throws a pick six, virtually ends the game at that point. Garantano, as Shelton has alluded to, I've tried to battle on the show for Garantano, and I just can't do it anymore. Yeah. He holds it together until he doesn't anymore, and the game's over once he doesn't. He has a catastrophic play in almost every game, it seems like, and it just doesn't give us a chance to win.
Yeah, and this isn't the defensive coordinator you want to see go up against him if he plays this Saturday. Unclear whether he will or not, but Todd Grantham, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at him. And don't ignore Florida's defense the way they played this year. Grantam's going to be very aggressive. He knows either he's going to get a senior that might panic in the pocket, or he's going to get a true freshman. Either way, they're going to bring a lot after him.
And I still think that going back to the Auburn game, I think Gus Malzahn is going to be in trouble at the end of the year, and yet we couldn't really do much with Auburn. It's 10-10 at halftime, but by the end of the game, they'd run away with it. So even an Auburn team that the Auburn fans are not happy with, they boat raced us by the end of the game.
Well, before we get started too close to the Tennessee game today against Florida, let's go around the SEC. Number 5, Texas A&M travels to Auburn. Those same Auburn Tigers. Texas A&M, number 5 in the nation, comes in at 6-1. Auburn at 5-3. This is a 12:00 kick, so this game is getting close to concluding. This is at Texas A&M, of course. At Auburn, of course, with Texas A&M with a 6.5-point favorite. I tell you, this A&M team is a team that is really coming to their own later in the season.
Yeah, this is what Jimbo Fisher envisioned. This is what he envisioned when he started at Texas A&M. Before, when he signed that big old contract. This is a much improved Texas A&M team. This is a team that's doing well this deep into the season, which is surprising. We know Texas A&M teams that are much hyped. They start off the season real well, and then they kind of fizzle at the end. This is a team that looks to be made for the long haul.
Yeah, Auburn's coming off that beat down against Bama last week, and the Auburn fans truly thought they had a chance last week, and so now they're mad again. They want to fire Gus, but they're not nearly as mad as they're going to be when Texas A&M beats them down this weekend.
So we got Texas A&M from Jason. Patty, who you
Texas
think?
A&M.
Texas A&M. Let's go on to next game. Also kicked off at 12 o'clock. It's on ESPN Network. Arkansas 3-5 travels to Missouri, who is 4-3. Arkansas this year again. Jason, Sam Pittman has went over there and done what I would consider a marvelous job. Arkansas thinks they finally found their guy at 3-5, playing with a bunch of guys last year that apparently they couldn't win. Now all of a sudden have been in almost every game they played in. Arkansas, though, it comes in at a 3-point underdog in this game.
Yeah, and I think this is a game, a battle for the coach of the year, because Eli Drinkwitz has done a good job at Missouri. After just a few games, I'll say I couldn't be any more wrong. I thought he would be a terrible hire, and yet they've got it going on there. This is the battle of the first-year coaches between Pittman and Drinkwitz. I'm going to take Arkansas in this one, though.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna go against you. I think Arkansas, now, while they have shown flashes of being a really good football team, or being a good football team, unfortunately they've had some hiccups, and they really been. They've had ups and downs, but Missouri just seems to be getting a little better each week. I think this is a game where, like you said, where there's a battle for the coach of the year. I just think Missouri might have the edge. And I think they're just a little bit better. But I wouldn't be surprised if Arkansas won, but I'm going to pick Missouri.
Missouri it is. So we've got a split here. Arkansas for Jason Cox, Missouri for Patty Key. I think it's a toss-up. I really do. This could be an interesting game.
Be a close game, yeah.
Absolutely. Hey, listen, you're listening to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial. We're going to take a quick break here. Be right back with you with more for Rocky Top Review. Jason Cox, Patty Key, I'm Stephen Shelton. Back in 60 seconds. Back on Rocky Top Review, presented by CHI Memorial. Stephen Shelton along with Patty Key and Jason Cox. Guys, let's move on in the SEC, and we can talk a little bit about this game or more about the coaching carousel that's beginning to happen in college football, when a lot of people thought this year was not a year that a lot of coaches would move, but it looks like that's not going to be the case. 0-8 Vanderbilt, who dismissed Derek Mason after their last loss, travels down to Athens, Georgia to play the number 8 Georgia Bulldogs at 4 o'clock, a game that'll kick off here in just an hour or so. So, guys, Derek Mason now out at Vanderbilt. First of all, I think Derek Mason did a fabulous job at Vanderbilt. I think a guy that is a very great coordinator. He'll be on somebody's staff sooner than later. Remember what he did at Stanford when he was out there. So now Vandy is on the coaching search. We've heard names from Will Healy, who's a local guy, all the way to Urban Meyer. I mean, I've heard you can throw
Jeff Fisher.
Jeff Fisher's been out there. But, guys, you look at this Vanderbilt job, it's not one that's very desirable. Let's be honest. The academic levels that you need to be able to recruit in football to have 80 to 100 guys versus a basketball or baseball program where you have a lot less you need to fulfill a competitive team makes this job not greatly desirable. But we've seen people in the past. We see a guy that's at Penn State right now have success at Vanderbilt. What says you?
I think there's some draw to Vanderbilt. I mean, well, first of all, and yes, there is high academic standards, but there is the high academic quality that you get if you choose to go to Vanderbilt. There's also the city of Nashville. The city of Nashville is a draw. I think this is an opportunity for Vanderbilt to really change their change their offense, change their identity. I think there's some coaches out there, maybe some triple option coaches, maybe a Army Navy coach. Those are painful to play. Those teams are painful to play. We played that against Georgia Tech, against Paul Johnson, and they gave us fits up and down the field. I think this is an opportunity for Vanderbilt to go that direction.
Yeah, I think they ought to just go down to Tuscaloosa and hire Nick Saban. That's what I think. So, any chance of that?
I don't.
No, I agree with Patty. I think I'm hearing a lot of people talk about Jeff Monken from, is he at Army? He's one of the triple option guys. And that makes a lot of sense in these situations like Vanderbilt where they can't recruit the same way the other SEC schools can. Bring in something different. And I think that's probably, I think you're right, Patty. I think that's probably the one thing the rest of the SEC doesn't want to see Vanderbilt do. They're not worried about them going out and hiring just a normal football coach, but they don't want to see them bring in some offense that's different, that they cut block on every play and things like that. So that's
you have to adjust your defense for that week. It's just hard to do. And like I said, Tennessee, they had fits with that with Georgia Tech, and I think this is an opportunity for Vanderbilt. And like you said, Derek Mason is a great coach. He's going to find a spot somewhere.
But I'll tell you where there's not an opportunity, though. There's not an opportunity for them to win a football game this weekend.
No, well, and that being said, let's look at the Georgia side of things. If you're Kirby Smart and you could go back to week 1, and we're going to reset the whole season, do you think he makes the same choices at quarterback? Because that's what's cost him. At the end of the day, do you think he makes the same choices at quarterback? If he had to do it over again, do you think he goes a different route? Because at the end of the day, their defense has been really good. Their running game has been good, but quarterback plays really just hurt him.
Yeah, I think he would have. I think he would at least prepare JT Daniels, for more than he did. I think he was wanting to be cautious with him, and it's probably cost him. But this is a game for JT Daniels to really get going in time, just in case they were to sneak into the playoff. Crazier things have happened. I know they're a 2-loss team, but crazier things have happened. This is a good game for JT Daniels to really sink in and get the offense and lead this team.
Well, and I would say this. I guess I'm gullible enough to say I believe people when they say things, and I probably shouldn't be that way. But they just said JT Daniels wasn't healthy enough to start the season. And so I just believe that was probably the case because he's a 5-star kid that signed with USC several years ago, a huge free agent recruit this past year on the open market. And I just think if he was really healthy, he would have won that starting job because we see what he's doing on the field now. And so, I'm afraid as a Tennessee fan, I'm afraid Georgia's found their quarterback for the next few years.
Well, let's move on to South Carolina travels to Kentucky, talking about coaching carousels. With South Carolina, of course, dismissed Will Muschamp earlier this season. Now we're hearing rumbles that Kentucky may lose their coach. He may be packing his bags and going to Iowa as soon as this season's over with. So the coaching carousel, if you have a Vanderbilt job open, a South Carolina job open, and then all of a sudden you have a Kentucky job open, that's 3 jobs in the SEC, and I don't care where you are in your life, if you get the opportunity to become a head coach in the SEC, that's a pretty good chance you're going to take it.
Yeah, for sure. And as a Tennessee fan, again, I would say I would be happy to see Mark Stoops leave Kentucky because Kentucky needs to be a doormat in football. We have a tough enough time with them in basketball. They need to be a doormat, and Mark Stoops has built a really good Kentucky program there. So I'd be happy to I'd probably send him a gift card on his way out. But to me, this week, South Carolina doesn't have anything to play for. They fired their coach. They're having opt-outs left and right. They've got nothing to play for. Kentucky's an 11.5-point favorite. I think they cover that and win.
I think Kentucky does get the win, but I think it's going to be a very struggling game for both sides. Mike Bobo, I don't know how good of a coach he is, but South Carolina, they don't have anything to play for, but they also have nothing to lose, so they could come out firing. But I do think it's just going to come down to Kentucky's just the better football team. Mike Stoops has built this team to where they win games like this, even though they might struggle, and they have been struggling. I think it's just going to be an ugly game, probably like a 13-10 score.
Alabama, the number 1 team in the nation, takes their 8-0 record down to LSU, who is now 3-4 on the season, coming off the national championship. Alabama, it'll be an 8 o'clock CBS kickoff. Alabama, 29.5-point favorite down there. Hard for me to imagine that you win a national championship and then you're a 30-point dog the next year to the number 1 team in the nation. So Alabama will travel to LSU. It's going to be a night game in Baton Rouge, but I don't think it's going to have the same glitz and glamour as in years past.
No, I don't think there's been a team or many teams have suffered the loss of of COVID opt-outs more than LSU, and it's shown on the field. They lost some defenders. They lost their best receiver, and it's like I said, it just showed up on the field. This is just not a very good LSU football team. I think it is less likely that they beat Alabama than it is that we beat Florida.
Wow. This is a prime example of what quarterback play does or does not do for you. Last year, Joe Burrow had one of, if not the greatest quarterback season ever in college football. And this year, they seem to have had a little traction for a while with a guy, and then he got hurt and knocked out, and they've just been terrible at quarterback. Well, you bring in Bo Pelini as your defensive coordinator, you think, oh, you got one of the top defensive coordinators in the country, and he's been the worst defensive coordinator in the country this year. And it's because their defense is always on the field. It's 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out on the offensive side, and it absolutely kills you. And LSU's feeling some of the same things we feel with bad quarterback play.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. With that, we're going to take our second break and final break of the Rocky Top Review Show presented by CHI Memorial. We'll have 8 good minutes left for you guys to discuss whether or not we fire Jeremy Pruitt when we come back. You're listening to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial, back in 60 seconds. Back on Rocky Top Review, I'm Stephen Shelton, along with Patty Key and Jason Cox. Rocky Top Review, presented by CHI Memorial. Well, gentlemen, what some would say in years past is the game of the week. Not so fast, my friend, this week. Florida will travel to Knoxville, will be a 1,000-point favorite, according to Vegas. Guys, we can talk about Tennessee football till we're blue in the face, but it comes down, I think, at this point to the season, whether or not Jeremy Pruitt is retained as the Tennessee head coach, or do we move on without him? Jason Cox, I'll give you the floor.
You think about this, and I think most Tennessee fans are done with Pruitt. Most are saying, hey, we've seen enough. We know what he is. We know what he's not. I would say it's not our money that would be paying the buyout, and you're talking about $20 million. It's easy to say, fire the guy, fire everybody up there, but you're talking about $20 million in a year when half the athletic department's taking pay cuts or getting laid off.
Well, and everyone on the football staff except for 2 didn't take their pay cuts. We have 2 guys up there that's worth a grain of salt. The other guys not so much. But when you look at over $140 million lost in revenue also for an athletic department, that's big.
Yeah, it sure is, and it's not only a money issue, but it's the same question every time we go through this: who are you going to get?
Okay, well, stop there. Don't go any further. Patty, I'll let you have the floor because I want to come back to what you just said.
Okay, so you got to look at your $20 million buyout. You got to look at the economics of it, but part of the economics is what's your outlook for next year. Are you going to have a better football team next year? And also, if you don't fire Pruitt, what's your fan attendance going to be? What's going to be the fallout of that? Because you've got to have
crazy. We're Tennessee fans. We'll be there.
Okay, so we've lost our number 1 recruit who's opened up.
Our top 2 recruits.
Okay, but then we also had a union of guys that started tweeting, "We're all in." No, we're all in.
Yeah.
And so my question would be, at this point, Jeremy Pruitt's 15-15 in his career. At this point, Johnny Majors was 14-15-1.
That's right.
But we kept Johnny Majors
right
until he got past his prime. But now, what do you say if I told you that Jeremy Pruitt could become the next Johnny Majors?
Well, and this is what I think. I've said on the show the whole year, I feel like those guys up there are football coaches. We've had some guys up there. We had a lawyer as our football coach. We had a guy that played in the band in high school. Love you band people, but Butch Jones is a band guy, not a football guy. We've got a football regime up there right now.
So we've got a football regime, but we've got a guy that won the Heisman Trophy as a quarterback who's been able to show he couldn't develop water.
Yeah.
So my question is, do we have a coaching staff or do we have some names?
I feel that maybe half of them are right now, I would consider names. And this is the thing. I fully believe that Jeremy Pruitt is a good football coach. I believe that he has a great football mind, better than any of the previous 2 or 3 coaches. I think he's got a great football mind. But This is a different building, and this is a different way of building, and this is his first head coaching job. It's like Derek Mason. Derek Mason is a good football coach. Maybe this job right now is a little too big for him.
Okay, well let's stop there.
I'm just being the villain.
So let me throw another. No, that's fine. Let me throw another question out. Just because we believe he's a good football coach, in my mind, Derek Mason, great coordinator. Can we not agree that that doesn't always transpire into being a great head coach?
I think this is the case. I think this is a case where it is very possible.
We see it all the time.
And I think Jeremy Pruitt has been a great coordinator, but he's also had some great pieces. Florida State had stud defensive players.
Georgia, Alabama.
He's been working with stud defensive players. He's never had to build a program from basically the ground up. That's not his fault. But it was maybe a little too big for him for his first job. That's why I don't know about the Johnny Majors comparisons. Because
Okay.
Johnny Majors is the national championship coach.
At Pitt before he
At
came.
Pitt, sure.
So what is the biggest drawback then from Pruitt? If you give him another year, if Jason Cox says we should give him another year because of, and then Patrick Key says we give him another year because we've said why we shouldn't.
Okay.
But give me why, if you're going to give me one thing, we should give him another year because, take the financials out of it, take the fan base out of it. I'm talking about from a pure coaching aspect. Give me why we should give him another year because, Jason.
Well, I don't know. I have a hard time taking the coaching side out of it because I feel like he's a football coach and I feel like he can teach.
No. I'm not talking about. I'm just saying. Let's take the fan side and the financial side. Let's leave the football coaching side in. So why would, because of his football coaching ability or whatever it is, why do we give him that next year?
Well, I mean, I think recruiting for one.
Okay.
This is his third recruiting class. It's a solid class. You mentioned the number one recruit we just lost. Austin Price says he's the fifth or sixth best player we have in this class. He's got, sorry to say this, but he's got bust written all over him. The second guy, we've got a good chance of getting the McGee kid back in the class, and he's huge because if you watched our secondary, we're not very good back there. So we need that kid. We got a good chance to get him back in the class. We just had a running back decommit and recommit to us, so we can do that.
There's one thing we don't need though, running back. We got a pretty good one up there right now.
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
And the thing is, I think it says a lot that we've had a difficult season, and none of our players have opted out. That haven't already opted out before that. I know D'Angelo Gibbs opted out, but I don't.
No impact players.
No impact players have opted out. I'm sorry. It's a good point. So it still seems like they're still bought in. I think it's so if we show progress, even if we lose to Florida and Texas A&M because they are top of the line right now, I want to see that progress though, because if we just go in and we get blown out 50-3, 45-10, man, I'll have a hard time defending another year.
Okay, so here we go. Final question is, as to Tennessee, if there is one coach that I told you we can sign him if we let Jeremy Pruitt go, we know we have him. There's one coach in America right now, whether he's coaching for someone else or whether he's not coaching, who's the name that you would say, I'm okay as a Tennessee fan with allowing him to take over this program and buying Jeremy Pruitt out? Patrick.
I would say right now Jamie Chadwell from Coastal Carolina. I think he's got a creative offensive mind, and he wants to be at Tennessee. I think the draw, and I know Hugh Freeze is a name. I think the draw with these two names are they want to be at Tennessee. They've not publicly stated, but they set out that this is a destination job for them. And I don't know if some of the other coaches in the past have felt that way about Tennessee.
Well, I think most Tennessee fans that have paid attention would probably say Hugh Freeze. So I'll skip that one just because that's the majority. I would go with either Matt Campbell or Luke Fickell. And if I have to pick one, I'd say Matt Campbell. He's done some great things at Toledo. He's been at Iowa State, which is considered maybe the worst job in big-time football, and he's winning there. So I would go with Matt Campbell.
I think if I was asked this question, I asked this question, we're running out of time, but I think Hugh Freeze or Urban Meyer are the only two guys because I'm not hiring anyone right now, as bad as I hate Urban Meyer. I'm not hiring anyone right now in this spot without giving Pruitt a second year unless you've told me they have been successful as an SEC coach. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
And that's a fair assessment.
Now, I think Fickle and I think Campbell goes to Michigan. I think Fickle's got a chance to go to Michigan or Penn State. I think James Franklin's jumping to USC if he gets a chance. I think Urban Meyer, he's already in Texas right now, down there at a hotel. They've got him on video. Yeah. I think Urban Meyer's about to cash in big time. But the only name that I can say as a Tennessee fan that just bleeds orange is give me someone who has already shown success. James Franklin's another name. You know, shown success in the SEC. And there's 3 guys right now that are available that have shown success. James Franklin, Urban Meyer, and Hugh Freeze. Other than that, I think you got to give Jeremy Pruitt another year.
And I think the crown jewel in Hugh Freeze's crown is that he beat Nick Saban twice.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, if you can be, and he took some bad losses too. If you really dig into that at Ole Miss, he took some bad losses. He certainly didn't run a very clean program. Yeah. But if Philip Fulmer is watching over that, I feel good about that. But the thing about Freeze is he beat Bama twice, and what Tennessee fan wouldn't love to say we've done that in the past 10 years?
Anyone that's alive.
Yeah.
Guys, I appreciate it so much. Patrick, thanks for coming in and a little pinch hitting for us this week. We really appreciate it. Jason, as always. We'll try to get back to normal if there is a normal in football season next week. Again, you've been listening to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial. We're going to throw you to the Vol Network right now, but until next week, for Jason Cox, for Patrick Key, I'm Stephen Shelton. Thanks, everyone.